Hi guys. It is Sunday, January 16th. I am uploading a vlog right now that's gonna go live tomorrow morning, Monday morning. It is like the perfect hour right now. The sun is starting to set. I mean, it's literally only 4:30. I look like I'm the queen of jazzercise. You can't even tell with these pants, just with this top. I think it's also the hair. I'm getting ready to go to the gym. I just got back from my walk with Britt and made some breakfast lunch, and I'm just feeling like motivated to go work out. So that's what we're gonna go do. So we're gonna put on my shoes. Can I just say that apparently I'm like on the cutting edge of fashion, because these are my New Balances that I wear to work out. They're the New Balance 990 V5. Like, what does that even mean? And I bought them like months ago. I bought them at like Foot Locker, and I just thought they were super simple and cute, and I needed new workout shoes because the bottom of my Nikes are super, like, what do you say, like worked in, I guess. And now these are like super sought after. Everybody wants them. Out of breath again the minute I start talking. I have some TikToks I'm gonna make tomorrow. I've just been like really leaning into TikTok and YouTube because I feel like those have the best payoff in terms of finances and brand deals. In this video, I'll actually touch a lot more on LA for you guys, and I'll just kind of make it a vlog because I know that sometimes the sit down videos can be such a snooze. So I'll give you guys a little bit of my LA backstory probably tomorrow morning. All right, let's go to the gym, kids.
And I'm up again. I got tired eyes, need a cup of blend. That's right, in the AM, that's my only friend. No light, just the sun coming up on the horizon. I lose track of time, yeah, I move fast and climb.
Hi guys, I took the eye patches off and now we're gonna ice roll for a little bit. And I wanted to sit down with you and do that sort of becoming an actor, moving to LA, finances, how to get an agent, just chat. Oh, Linus hears me talking. He's gonna come over. And I am fully gonna be ice rolling as we're having this chat because I'm just looking a little puff. It's like the anxiety sets in when I'm about to start something. Here comes Linus. Sit. I moved to LA at 22 years old, turning 23. Okay, you're gonna need to sit because it's gonna distract people. I moved to LA, 22 years old, turning 23, which I remember thinking was so old to start acting. I was like, I was supposed to be 11 to have a career, you know? Because that's kind of how it feels when you move here and you don't know anybody and you don't have an agent or a manager or even know how to get one of those things. It feels very daunting. You feel very late to the game. I've always wanted to be an actress. I had this sense of sort of, I guess you could say, delusion that it would just work out for me and that I could just move here and be an actress. And I think you actually do have to have a bit of that delusion, because otherwise you're gonna find too much doubt. You're gonna second guess yourself and you're gonna have a plan B that you end up just going to. For me, I always knew that was my biggest dream, and I was totally fine working side jobs until that happened. I moved out of my college town. I drove down here with my car entirely full. My parents drove in a separate car with some stuff, and I moved into my very first apartment. Now, to give you just brief context about the apartment I was moving into, I did not know a single person in Los Angeles. Okay, maybe I knew one person, but it wasn't like I knew any close friends. So I didn't know where to move. Because you're about to move to a big city and you think, like, how do people just know where to go? Nowadays, there are more resources like on TikTok and people, you know, on YouTube. But back then, this was in 2014. I had a mutual friend connect me with a girl, and she basically found this apartment for us. I had never met the girl before, but she seemed cool. We had a mutual friend, and it was cheaper to have a roommate, and I just heard West Hollywood was kind of central and cool. So we just did that. We lived together for about a year in an apartment in West Hollywood, which I ended up living in for 7 years. She moved out after a year, and my best friend Brittany moved in with me from San Luis Obispo as well. And those were some of the best years of our lives. Like, we talk about that all the time. Just such good memories. We had this kind of, it was a good apartment, but you know, it was a little bit janky. We paid $1,200. By the time we moved out, we were paying each about $1,200 in rent. It was rent controlled. I had a roommate, so we, you know, you're splitting a cost of an apartment. It was 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, but it does bring your cost of living down so much when you have a roommate. When we first moved in, I honestly think each of our rent was $1,050, and with rent control, it can only go up a certain amount each year. So by the time I had been living there for 6 or 7 years, we were only paying about $1,200 each, which was it's pretty good for any city. If you're planning on moving to a big city, I think now there are plenty of resources, but I would say just start connecting with people that maybe you know, or messaging people that live in the city, even if you don't know them, and just kind of letting them know your situation. And I think anyone who's cool will guide you into like different places. I would say now things have just changed a lot in Los Angeles. Without getting too into the politics of it all, I would say that West Hollywood has changed a lot just in terms of safety. So you'd want to be really specific about which streets you want to look into, but I'll kind of give you guys like the basic breakdown of how I view LA. There's West Hollywood, which is definitely more fun, party central. It's farther from freeways, but you're taking a lot of side streets to get to a lot of bars, a lot of restaurants. They call it, like, certain areas of it are referred to like Boys Town, because a lot of like gay bars are over in one section of West Hollywood, but West Hollywood is huge. So it just spans like really far out. I would say if you're wanting to move to LA and just be close to everything, West Hollywood is probably your best bet. Hollywood is kind of touristy, but I'm gonna be totally real with you guys. It's super dirty, and you don't want to live there. There might be certain streets that you could live on, but overall, I would say it's probably a little bit more hectic. The Valley, which people always refer to in like shows and movies as being like so far away and over the hill, is probably like the best in my opinion with where I'm at in my life. There's Studio City, Sherman Oaks, North Hollywood. North Hollywood and West Hollywood are very similar. They're a little bit more like sceney. Sherman Oaks is kind of more homes, like a lot more suburban. Toluca Lake is kind of the same way. I actually really like Studio City. I would probably say if you maybe are like in your 30s and you're moving to LA and you just kind of want a quieter scene, but you also want like restaurants and stuff nearby, I would say check out Studio City. Then there's the West Side, which is like Santa Monica, Brentwood, the Palisades. I've never lived over there. A lot of people that really like the beach, Venice as well. For me, the beach is just a little bit too hectic. Parking is really hard and rent is really high. I don't think the beaches in LA are that great. I'm just like a little bit more low key of a person. So for me, living quieter. In terms of finances, a lot of people have asked me what my job is and like how I can do anything and like how I get paid and stuff. But from the time I moved to LA to up until a few years ago, I worked in the restaurant and bar and service industry every year. I had hostessing jobs, waitressing jobs, bartending jobs. I worked multiple restaurants at one time. I would leave a restaurant and go start a new restaurant. Like, there was not a period during probably 5 years that I wasn't working in a restaurant. I think people just don't talk about that a lot because when you're trying to make it as an actress, you just kind of leave that information out, but everyone's doing it. I think that's kind of the funny thing about LA is like people just think people don't work, but you'd be so surprised. I've been at clubs and bars where I'd been following a girl on Instagram and then she was my waitress. People used to say that to me when I started to grow on Instagram and I had a bigger following. I was a waitress and people would be like, I follow you, that's so crazy. It's great money, it's consistent. When you're moving here and you're trying to meet people, it's an amazing way to meet people and just make connections and just kind of get your face out there. And like, you know, if you're single, it's a great way to meet guys. And like, it's a really, really fun environment if that's something you can handle and you're fine with serving. But as I got a little bit older, I was really grateful to be able to kind of phase out of the service industry just because my lifestyle had started to change. I didn't want to be up late, you know, because it's taxing on your life. Like, you go to sleep at 2 or 3 in the morning and then you sleep in, and it's just that cycle continues for a long time. It's also really hard industry to get out of because the money is so good for the hours you're putting in. So some were better than others. Some I stayed at for like a month, some I stayed at for 3 years. It just depended on the dynamic and the money and the timing. And I will say, like, the most people I was meeting were from when I was working in service. Okay, getting an agent. So there's a few different ways to go about this, and that's the crazy thing about this industry, is that there is no like one size fits all for how you end up getting an agent or a manager. First, the difference between an agent and manager, they're similar in that they're both on your team. When you have both, they both bring a lot of different things to the table, but they're both really important to have if you're at a stage in your career where having both makes sense. Okay, that just talked in a circle. An agent is somebody that's going to submit you for auditions. So you may not talk to them day to day, just depends on the kind of person they are, but they're just sort of behind a desk, like submitting you all day for roles that they think you'd be right for. A manager is somebody who's a little bit more involved in the nitty gritty and kind of more your like person that you talk with more often. The most I've felt really like fulfilled was having an agent and a manager. However, there had been periods of my career where I only had an agent or I only had a manager, and they were kind of helping fill both of those roles and needs. Because the kind of person they were able to just do it all. So you don't need both, but at some point I think it's helpful. The percentages that they take can be different. I'm not quite sure on the specifics of percentages, but they do often take a different percentage. And you don't pay them until you get paid for a job. So if you move to LA and anyone tries to ask you for money or tell you to pay a monthly thing up front, that is a scam. Do not do that. The only person that will do something like that is a publicist usually, and they usually have a retainer fee where you do have to pay them like every single month just to keep getting your name out there. But you don't need to do that unless if you're just moving here. Don't get a publicist. That doesn't make sense. So getting an agent, there are different ways to get one. You could do actor showcases, which basically you sign up, you usually pay a fee of like, maybe it's like $30 or $40, maybe more. And you prepare a monologue or a scene with an acting partner, and then you perform for a room full of usually casting directors, agents, and managers, and you may get a meeting out of it, you might get nothing out of it, but it's a great experience and I highly recommend. I would also really, really recommend you guys, if you just want to move to LA and see what it's like, get an acting class. That is actually how I've ended up networking in ways, because you A, meet people that are doing the same things as you, B, have people that understand what you're going through and you can talk about this stuff with, and C, you might meet somebody who has an agent or manager that's looking for somebody like you, and you can connect with those people and they might refer you to their agent or manager. I have found that the best way to get signed by an agent or manager is referrals. Kind of the chicken before the egg. Well, how do I get somebody to like refer me, you know, if I don't really have credits? I would say you really have to put in the legwork, and if it happens for you overnight, it's probably not going to be a sustainable career. This kind of career really takes a long time to get going, just because there is no one size fits all. Everyone looks different, everyone is different, and that's what's so cool about this industry, is that you really can't age out of it because there's a role for every age and person. You know, we're basically just representing people. So I would say it took about, for me, 3 years to really start making progress in my career. I had an agent and I thought, great, I don't have to do anything anymore. And that agent never got me a single audition. So unless you're really specific or different, you've just got to put in the time, the leg room, and nowadays you've got to make your own content. I know it's like so cliche and it's a broken record at this point, but it wasn't until I started making my own content and comedy videos and just, you know, really putting myself out there to show how different I was, is when things started happening for me. It's when I started getting meetings at really good agencies. It's when I started getting meetings at really good management companies that represented like famous people. And I'd go into these rooms with so much confidence because I knew what I had to offer. In the beginning, I was like, please sign me. I really want you to sign me. I really need your help. But when you have something to offer and you're confident in that, you don't have to be desperate. It's a win-win. Making content, I started getting noticed by people, and it was so much easier to get in the room, get a manager, get signed, and then get auditions. For me, it worked in this way that was pretty beautiful, where I started going on auditions for digital projects. So Facebook Watch series, YouTube Red series. Go 90 was a platform at the time that I had a show on. I had a show on Facebook Watch. I had done a couple episodes of Foursome, which was on YouTube Red. I've done just stuff across that platform. And that was like the perfect way for me to dip my toe into auditioning professionally, because they weren't necessarily network, you know, CBS, ABC sitcoms and stuff like that, but they were legitimate projects that were getting made and getting watched, and I got to book them. After a few years of doing that, I was able to make connections. A show I had done on Go 90 called Millennial Mafia, I was cast in by this casting director named Lisa London. A few years later, I had an audition. She remembered me. She brought me in for this film called Switched. As you know, they're not gonna just give you the role, but if they kind of go, oh, you know what would be good for this is Madeleine, let's bring her in. You know, you have that relationship. They know they like you. They've seen you in another project. It makes it so much easier for them to have the confidence in you as an actor. I booked that job, and then from then, Lisa's just been like a lovely addition to my life. She knows that I can deliver. It's great. Then from there, I had an audition for 20s, which originally was supposed to be on TBS, later got picked up by BET. My audition was a 2-line audition. It wasn't anything crazy. It was like 2 lines. I think I just looked the part and it worked out in my favor. And once I got to set, I was able to really show off like my improv chops, my comedy chops. And then it manifested into this beautiful recurring role that I've been on now for 2 seasons. I'm super grateful for that. So officially I've been in LA now for 7 years. And over those 7 years, I can say my confidence, my career, everything about this journey for me has just grown and changed so much. You could have never told me that I would have been like the lead in a film and a recurring role in a television show. Like, I still pinch myself because that's all I had ever wanted to do, and I'm still going. Camera cut me off because I was talking too much. After 7 years, the things I am now auditioning for are amazing, you guys. Like pilots, series, comedy, drama, film, streaming shows, recurring jobs, like, and I think that's what a lot of people don't see is behind the scenes. You're constantly hustling, you're constantly auditioning. So if you're not booking, that's okay, because people keep bringing you in. There's one show that's on the air that has brought me in at least 4 or 5 times now, and just because I don't get the role, that's okay. If they keep bringing me back, that's because they know that I can deliver and I'm good at my job. Really take it seriously and start to like study yourself and know where you thrive as an actor, what you bring to the table. Acting class is the best way to just become more self-aware and get advice from people like your peers. That was really where I started to notice a big change in my acting. And getting comfortable with yourself on camera is a big deal, because we think we act a certain way and then we watch ourselves back and we're like, are you kidding me? Like, why do I have the worst posture? Do I look like that from the side? Like, I didn't realize my nose was this way. You know, just things like that. And I think once you just come to terms with how you look, hear your voice enough times, and learn your quirks and your tics, and you're you're gonna become so much more comfortable auditioning. I will say too, with COVID, auditionings now for me is pretty much all self-tape. A lot of actors have actually moved out of LA and they're able to just send in tapes. I actually prefer a self-tape. However, I've booked more in the room. So I think that was actually a really good start. If you guys like this type of information, okay, well, Linus didn't. If you guys like this type of information, please let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to do a part 2 on being an actor in LA and what it takes to get here. And yeah, let me know. I really enjoyed sharing this with you guys, and thanks for not hating my appearance. We have just been like having a full-on morning. I love you guys. Like and subscribe, do all the things, and I'll see you guys soon.